So someone's had a laryngectomy, they've been told they can go home. Will they need somebody to be with them when they go home, or what do they need to do in order to go home?
So I would say that all of us in the hospital, the main focus is making sure that somebody who's had this surgery goes home very well equipped to know what they need to do in terms of looking after the stoma, what they would need to do in case of an emergency. So it's good to train the person, but also family, if that's appropriate, to know what signs should they look out for, why might they need to come back to the hospital if their breathing changes, for example, or if they see signs that the stoma might be getting a little bit smaller, or if they feel unwell. So people can absolutely go home and look after themselves, but it's up to us as professionals to make sure that they don't leave hospital until we've taught them the very important things about how are they going to contact emergency services, for example, if they're using a voice prosthesis and it happens to block, how would they contact emergency services? We can set up, or they can set up emergency calls, silent emergency calls. They can really have a lot of support at home. There are home care nurses, or there are nurses who come from the hospital to really make sure that people are set up in the right way. But I think that is the skill of it, in knowing that we've set somebody up absolutely for success, to know what they should do, what equipment they might need, how life might be different when they go home, so that they can really look after themselves, and looking after themselves in hospital before they go, and demonstrating that they can safely take the laryngectomy tube in and out, that they know what to do if that might block, that they know how to call for help, all of those things. It's just a very important function that we have to do before somebody leaves hospital, to make sure they're safe at home.
Okay, thank you. So nobody has their laryngectomy, lies in a bed, does nothing, and then told to go home.
No,
So
well, I would say absolutely not in my experience. I would say that's changed, but I think it's crucial, from the early days after the laryngectomy, that people are encouraged to move around, to be active, to take a very active role in watching what happens to their stoma, so that the nurses, to start with, may be looking after the stoma and the lines and everything else that's going on, but that somebody looks in a mirror if they can. That first look in a mirror can be really shocking for some people. So just staging that gradually, to say to people, are you ready? But gradually getting people so that they can watch what's going on, and then teaching them that they can do it themselves. And I would always encourage people, even if they have a very devoted significant other who wants to get involved, I would always be very active in saying to that person, you really have to do it for yourself as well. It's really important that you know how to do it, because when you're out and about and the valve blocks, for example, it's just easy to pop over perhaps somewhere to just clean the valve, or to change the HME filter, or whatever, but you just have to know how to do those things yourself.
I mean, I suppose if somebody lives on their own, is there anything different that you would put in place for that person?
I think encouraging people to think ahead before they leave hospital, all of those things, to think, okay, and how the things that you normally do. So if you might normally phone for help, how are you going to do that if you're not yet using your communication method particularly easily? Do we need to register you for silent calls? Do we, at the most basic, perhaps need to set up a sort of yes/no communication system with a trusted friend, so that you can establish communication? What do you need to do in terms of making sure that you have all of those systems that you need to live well? How can you change those? And I think it's running through, I would say it's running through people's routine with them, and thinking, what will changes be like? And living alone, I think, certainly does present more challenges post laryngectomy, but it's certainly the case that we have a number of people who go home and do live alone. It may be for a short time they have somebody who comes to live with them just to help them in the early days, but certainly not everybody does that. And I think it's part of the team in the hospital to work out what will that person need in terms of support once they go home. Do they need slightly more support, for example?
Okay, so I think what I'm hearing there is once you've had your laryngectomy, you are encouraged to really start doing things for yourself, really, and learning
Yes.
how to do all this. So you are ready to go home, really. So nobody's sent home without that preparation, really. So